The place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Well, welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, August 15th, 2025, and this is episode, I don't know, of Living Free in Tennessee. I think it's 1072 or 1073. Don't quote me on that. And you can see I am not coming to you from the Holler Homestead. That's right. We're broadcasting from the Base Camp Lodge today because there's somebody coming to work on the air conditioning, which went out yesterday, but now it's back on. And I want to make sure it's on for the She's class next weekend. And Murphy's Law of when people show up here is when I'm actually doing something that it's hard to move around, like somebody comes over to learn to make elderberry syrup and chimney guy gets here, or HVAC arrives in the middle of the show. And as you can also see, Tactical Redneck is late. Very, very late. So hopefully he'll show up. Hopefully something hasn't gone wrong. I didn't see any message saying, oh no, crisis. So I think it's just that we've added a different location and that messed with his head. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to give you an update on Polyface Farm, the visit we had last weekend. We came live from the road last week. We're going to talk about a bunch of improvements that are happening here in the holler, including the roof getting redone at the Base Camp Lodge, which one would think, hey, Nicole, are you crazy for fixing the roof and replacing it completely the week before a cheese class at the Holler Lodge? And the answer would be yes, I am crazy, but also it needed to be done. So anyway, how are you?
Exhausted.
Why are you exhausted?
Breaking the number one rule of warfare. Never fight a multi-front war.
Okay.
Fighting on all fronts right now.
Hey, do you want some coffee?
I've got some.
There's a pot of coffee behind you.
Okay.
I thought that would make your day. Did that make your day?
It probably will.
This show brought to you by Holler Roast, and I'm going to ask you to close that curtain because you're very dark, and get the dining room light on. However the dining room light goes on. Hello, Jim, Beth, Matt, Pack Rat. Anybody else on today? Margot is here. If you guys have questions that you want us to answer live, that would be great. Just put the word question in all caps and we'll go from there. Okay, so with that, I'm going to make sure when Tactical sits down, he's actually on camera. Are you on camera? That's worse.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess the dining room light has to come off. Anyway, we're doing the best we can with what we have here. The biggest problem is the place where we want to go live from is right over there, and there's no way to plug the computer in for that. So, but we're coming to you from Base Camp. So you'll see this is the project that has been unraveling as we have gone down the road of getting our, yeah, that just makes it, wah, yeah, no, yeah, well, I mean, that makes me light, but not you. Anyway, we've been going down the road of turning this into a teaching lodge and an area where people can have cabins around it, but they come in here for coffee in the morning, and we're doing the cheese class here because it's a really well-designed kitchen for teaching. And so when we found out that it was time to do the roof, we were like, probably should get that done. So if it rains during the cheese class, there's not like a leak in the roof during cheese class. So Ken Esch has been out all week when it hasn't been raining, doing his best to get the roof done. And Tactical has been on the roof with him when he can be on the roof with them. And this morning we had a really fun morning coffee together, didn't we, Tactical? You're not going to talk with your mouth full? So we're having morning coffee, and I was like, well, it's not hot out. Let's go put shingles in the dumpster. And so we spent about an hour and a half this morning loading the dumpster. We still got to finish the rest of the load on that dumpster. I don't know when they're coming back for it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so we got a lot done, and I thought that worked out pretty well, actually. It's one of those jobs that nobody wants to do that's better to do with two people. So, you know, misery loves company. That's the way I see that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, reason Number 463 is to why I hate asphalt shingles. The metal roof is in 3 piles, and the only reason it's in 3 piles is because there's a pile of damaged roofing.
The asphalt shingles was just in a heap, and we did pretty good. I think we got more than half of it this morning, I would say.
Way more than half.
Like 3/4 of it is loaded up. And the stuff that we could drop straight into the dumpster from the roof went straight into the dumpster from the roof to begin with. So that's gone pretty well. Ken will be back on Monday to put the metal on. Yeah. Nighthawk's going to be painting the fascia boards this weekend, and he's going to be replacing any rotten ones, which means we need to think about my trip to the hardware store on Saturday. Okay. Because I'll be at Lowe's. I'll be right by Lowe's when I'm tasting coffee at the state fair. So I thought I'd just take the truck and get whatever I need to get. Okay. Yeah. I made all sorts of plans behind your back this morning while you were frustrated with the world.
Spot ops normal.
Yeah. Would you like to talk about the featured event of today's show? Guess what it is?
I guess the cheese class.
Self-Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee at Birdsong Marina. That's right. We're at a new location, Birdsong Marina. We've got a lot of great speakers. I have been rolling out the demonstrations in my head and not online, but I will tell you that we've got a hempcrete demonstration. SRF youth is going to be really cool. And if they can get their hands on some night vision and some of those youth are camping in the campground, there will be a nighttime activity. I just talked to Scott Armstrong about doing a rebunked / unvaxxed singles meetup there. So on Saturday night, there's going to be a singles meetup. That's going to be super fun. That's something that's been kind of growing in this area, and people keep asking me to do something like that at Self-Reliance Festival, and I keep telling them to do it, and I'll put it on the agenda. So I said, Scott, are you willing to just go for it since you're doing this anyway? And he said, sure, that sounds like a good time. He was going to be he's going to be speaking / broadcasting from the festival anyway. So that works out. And we've also got, what are the other demonstrations? Cheese making. I'm hoping we have biochar, but I haven't confirmed that one. So, if you're my backup biochar person, let me know. We have a solar demonstration happening and a lot of just defense dogs. Who could forget Joel Riles? So it's going to be a good time. Lots of awesome presentations from the stage. We've got a good lineup of vendors that has been growing this week. So if you want to be a vendor at Self-Reliance Festival, it's less expensive than it was last year. A booth is $300 instead of $400, and half a booth is $150. So you can check that all out at selfreliancefestival.com. That's October 4th and 5th in Camden, Tennessee, now at a new location, which is the Birdsong Marina. This means if you want to come with an RV, you can rent an RV spot at the marina. Tent camping is included with your ticket. The campground has a lot of trees, so you're not just going to be on a blazing parking lot or anything like that. And the event itself will happen in the central area where the boat ramp is. We're going to have a big old tent out there, vendors, some food trucks. It's going to be a good time. I hope to see you there. And do you hope to see them there too? Are you going to be there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You know who's not going to be there?
Oh.
Our house sitter. We have a farm sitter coming in that week who probably would have wanted to go, but she traded me some other event goodies for taking care of the homestead for a week. So we've got that covered too. That means that maybe, just maybe, Tactical Redneck can leave the holler for more than 1 day or 2 days.
We'll see.
We got 2 overnights off-site done over the weekend, which was pretty cool. I do have 2 sponsors to thank today, too. The first sponsor is John Pugliano of the Wealthsteading Podcast. In fact, our live interview on Wednesday was John telling more about his story about how he went from rags to riches, growing up with a single mom because his dad died young, and into the military, which wasn't a good fit, into corporate America, which wasn't a good fit, how he learned about entrepreneurship, became an entrepreneur, and then went from there. The Wealthsteading Podcast is a almost weekly podcast episode that comes out where he talks about how he's making financial decisions, the state of the world, sometimes ham radio. Stories about his grandfathers are really interesting on that podcast, by the way. Check it out. Investablewealth.com is where you can just connect with the show. There's a tab that says podcast at the top, or look up the Wealthsteading Podcast on your podcatcher. Our second sponsor of today's show is really important for what's about to happen next here at the Holler Base Camp Lodge. Do you see what I'm holding up? This is a pair. There's a whole bunch of pairs on my counter. What's interesting about this adventure, as we've been just sort of unraveling, opening our doors to more people here and having more events and that sort of thing, is occasionally somebody drops by with a harvest and drops it off. And I've got a counter full of pears. And if I freeze dry these pears, they're delicious snacks. But if I freeze dry these pears, I need to put them in something to store them so they don't go off. You know what I'd put them in? Mylar bags. That's right. Discount Mylar bags. This is things in bulk from overseas. Passes on the savings to you. As you can imagine, things are up and down in that business world right now with the tariff wars, so to speak. So do your best to support Toby. If you're going to get Mylar bags or other food preservation or food storage things, go to discountmylarbags.com. Show him some love. Why get it on Amazon when you can support a community member? And he really does do the best on prices, as near as I can tell.
Yeah.
He does the best on prices he can do for you. He's been providing bags for the coffee business for years. So,
Yeah.
Are you ready for the first segment of today's show? Hey guys, Carson, welcome to the live stream. Strong Roots Resources is in. Michael from Dallas is here. Kiri, Martinson family, welcome to the live stream. If you guys have questions, put the word questions in all caps and we'll go from there. Before we go to the first segment on Polyface, I did want to mention when I moved, so we lost an animal about, was it 2 weeks ago now? It wasn't very long ago. Tigger has been declining for a long time. And about 2 weeks ago, he passed. He's been at the Holler. He was born at my house in Nashville. When he was a kitten, he moved to the Holler. So he was over 18 years old. And that's been a hard one for me because he's been in my life for so long. And then I really couldn't tell at the end, was like he in pain? Was he not in pain? And he got to a point where he was. So we took him into the vet and helped him along. That was not one I wanted to do on my own. And he is buried next to Sage, my dog, in what has now become sort of a little graveyard area near the food forest. It's a very peaceful spot. So this wanted to remember Tigger today. So that's my sads. I've had a lot of sads about Tigger lately. Okay. So on that note, it's your turn to talk because I'm more sad than you about it. Okay. Polyface. I asked, so we're doing show notes today. And I'm like, what else happened this week besides sheep getting out and the roof being put on base camp? And Tactical was like, nothing. And I was like, what about last weekend? I don't remember doing anything last weekend. That was the answer I got. This is what it's like to live with somebody who has short-term memory issues due to PTSD. I was like, well, I remember being at Polyface Farm. He's like, I'm going to go do this other thing and let you know stuff about Polyface. It's as if he's erased Polyface Farm from his brain altogether. Is that accurate?
It wasn't that I erased it. It was just like I had, at the moment, no recollection of what was last weekend.
Yeah.
And so it was like.
And then he looked at the time. He's like, oh, we're going live in an hour and a half. Like usually we do show notes. It's like 4 hours from the show.
Yeah.
But this morning, because we did a fun project over coffee together called Loading the Dumpster, and because you were up in the pasture doing things and then bringing wasp spray to Ken and all this other stuff, you were a little off your rhythm this morning.
It was very off my rhythm. Still am.
Yeah. Well, now you can get back on rhythm because this is like happening at the time of day it's supposed to happen. What's going to happen in the middle of the show is the HVAC guy is going to arrive. I'm sure of it. So, yeah. Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck over here all day because now Ken's not on the roof. Yeah, he wants your help. Oh, see, there's the HVAC guy. You want to go get the door? Right on cue, guys. I told you if they were going to arrive anytime today, it was going to be in the middle of the show. I'd love you to explain to him what happened yesterday. Okay, so Tactical now off the show. I'm putting off Polyface till Tactical comes back in. So my next one is about wild forage. We'll do Polyface when he comes back. It's better for two of us to do Polyface. So we have a couple of pawpaw trees that we keep our eyes on in the Holler, and we have been kind of giving it side eye because usually they're ready about the last week of August, first week of September, somewhere in that range. And I have a couple people who I'm supposed to tell, hey, you want to come out to base camp and try a pawpaw once they're ripe. We also have the Curds and Connection cheese class next Saturday, where Kerry Brown from Strong Roots Resources is coming out and doing a wild forage walk around here, something he's done in the holler a number of times, but I don't think we've ever done one at this time of year. So there's other stuff here at this time of year. And then we're folding that because Chef Ken Daniels is flying in from Texas and like taking care of the culinary experience of lunch. So I've been on my morning walks looking at these pawpaws and they look about ripe. And it looks like I have 2 that are definitely going to be ripe in time, possibly more. And that's a fun time of year because I don't preserve the pawpaws. In fact, if you preserve pawpaws the wrong way, it can cause a very uncomfortable, vomitous experience for people. But they're fresh. They're really delicious. They kind of have a custard texture. And it tastes to me like a combination between bananas and pears, although they've been cultivating different pawpaw varieties to have different flavors come out. So that is the thing that is exciting coming off the land right now. And as soon as I get pawpaws, Michelle, who was out here from Trippy Acres, said, just tell me so I can come out and try one. You've got to put a week in the fridge with them if you store them in the fridge. And usually they're ripe for a week or 2 in the holler. You are fighting with coyotes and deer and raccoons and anything else like possums. Everything wants the pawpaws. It's kind of like persimmons. Everything wants the persimmons. And you're fighting with them to get them. So it's kind of a daily thing you need to pay attention to. But pawpaws are the largest native fruit to North America. And they are, I mean, they grow in Tennessee on more south-facing slopes. I think the heat of north-facing slopes. The heat of a south-facing slope is not as great. So when I tried to get pawpaws going on my property, it was my first year here. I didn't really understand the tree. Like I hadn't observed where they grew wild. And here they grow in areas that are well drained, but also well watered. So on the edge, near the creek, north-facing slope, on an edge so that it's like shade, but also sun, so that when they come, like at first they need the shade and then they need the sun to fruit. And our pawpaw crops for the last couple of years have been increasing just from the woods. I have no cultivated pawpaws anywhere on my property at this point. With the advent of this base camp lodge, though, we have some better habitat for pawpaw. And as we get into the permaculture plan for this location, which we'll be sharing with you guys as we go through that journey, I hope that pawpaws will be part of it. Got a question in from Debbie. Can you have a pawpaw tree, but it never gives fruit? We may have a bunch on our property in Tennessee. Yes, Debbie, you can. If they don't get enough light, they won't fruit. If they set blossom and it frosts, they won't set fruit. If for some reason they're not in a pollination friendly environment, they won't set fruit. They might just be too young. So it's like, you're probably wondering, are they really pawpaws or not pawpaws? Next time you're here, have us show you the pawpaws as long as it's in season when the leaves are on. Like we can show you where pawpaws are. Eventually they'll have fruit, I think, unless there's something really weird with your soil or something, which I would doubt if they've, planted themselves there. So I'll probably do a little video on the pawpaws when there's actually a ripe one to use. But I was super excited to see that just in time for the Curds and Connection class on Saturday, which is just, it's going to be a fun day on the homestead. I'm really looking forward to doing that. We've even got a guy shooting some videos so that we can like promote the classes a little bit better. He wanted to come out and do a video about what we're doing here anyway. And I was like, well, then you should come to the cheese class because that's going to kind of cover all the bases. Plus, you get to go to the cheese class and have the all of the delightful bites that Chef Ken are putting together for us. Next up, we talked about homestead burnout about 2 weeks ago, and Tactical and I have committed to getting away for at least a day from the homestead every month. and preferably an overnight, preferably not a lot of connection via digital and that sort of thing. And this month, as you know, we went to Polyface. Well, we got back on Sunday, and the drive from Polyface is like 7 hours or so from here, unless you have a redneck in the truck with you, in which case, because of his particular disability, we end up having to stop more. We did manage to get it done and not throw him into a problem. But even when he didn't want to stop, we were stopping on a schedule to make sure that he could stretch and hopefully keep his body functioning, into this week. Well, we had a great time. We got lots of rest. And despite all of that, got home, and Sunday night, he was like, I'm so exhausted. It was like 9 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty much always that way after a travel day. I've stopped putting a lot of aggressive things on I just flew into town and then I need to do something. And even the next day, if I can do it, I try to have a light day after travel, because for some reason, just being in motion makes me exhausted. And I thought it was funny that I had just done homestead burnout, because Monday morning, time to work on the roof on base camp. And we had told Ken that we would, help him as much as we could, just to kind of keep everything moving, keep our own costs down, that sort of thing. And so Monday, the roofing wasn't even delivered yet, and the dumpster wasn't here yet, but it was time to start the roof. And the dumpster arrived pretty much first thing in the morning, and they dug into the roof and got, I think on Monday, we got half the roof off, and the, like the waterproof part that goes under a metal roof back on. Because the problem was there was a metal roof, and we thought there were 2 layers of asphalt shingle. Nope, 1 layer of asphalt shingle. We'd had some issues with leaks, and we noticed the screws weren't biting in. So we thought there was going to be a whole bunch of rot under there. And I was very worried about that, because also when water's coming through, that's a problem, right? And then the metal roof that was installed was not installed properly. So it didn't have, you're supposed to have a gap so that there's airflow, so that things dry out if there's an issue, because there's condensation on a metal roof. Anyway, I didn't know all that, but the asphalt shingle roof had to be removed as well. And that came right off. And we were super delighted to find out there wasn't any rot on that half of the roof at all, really. So instead of using whatever that press board stuff is called, I can't think of the name right now. It'll come to me, later in the show. They had used real rough cut planks for the decking under there, which means it was real wood, and we didn't have OSB under there, which when OSB gets wet, it just sort of goes bananas. And the reason that the screws weren't biting in is if you hit a gap between 2 boards, the screws didn't bite in, because for the metal roof, they hadn't put the slats to screw into, right? So that was really good news for us. There was only 1 layer of asphalt shingle, so that all came off pretty easily, and got the roof buttoned up. And then Tuesday it rained, and then Wednesday it looked like it was going to rain. So Ken came out Tuesday, and it started raining the second he got here, and it pretty much rained off and on all day. So he went home. And then Wednesday, he was like, it looks like it's going to rain. It didn't rain Wednesday, actually, but it looked like it was going to rain. And I think it may have rained once in the morning. So we kind of lost that day. But then yesterday, Thursday, was it Thursday, Wednesday? I don't know. I'm mixing my days up. You know what he did while he was here on Tuesday was we mold treated in here just in case there was any rot or mold that had gotten into the air here. So that was an important piece of the week. And he came in Thursday, demoed the other half of the roof. And that had, near where the chimney was, it had some areas where there was some boards that needed to be replaced. Replaced those boards, got that dried in and left. And then, yesterday we also mold treated my house. So my whole house, everything in my house has to be rinsed off from mold treating, which means it looks like the problem. So I started yesterday at the end. I worked from here. When we mold treated here, we turned the air conditioning off, and when we turned it back on, it did not cool. And so yesterday I had an awesome visitor, and I was like, I'm sorry to say that it's like 85 degrees in here, and we're going to learn how to make elderberry syrup, which is going to make it even hotter in here. And it was because when we did the mold treatment, we turned off the HVAC so it wasn't just circulating it, instead of leaving it here to do, it's a fog that they use. So it was really hot yesterday here. And I was in here all day because I couldn't be at my house because my house was being fogged yesterday. And at the end of the day, after everything had wrapped up, I was really looking forward, A, to a shower, and B, to air conditioning at my house again. But we had to you have to air out your house afterwards. So it aired out for a few hours. And I was coming back with my car with the stuff I had brought over here for the day. And Tactical, I ran into Nighthawk, who was coming home from work, and I was like, hey, the HVAC is not on base. It's on, but it's not working at base camp, and I don't know why. And so he came over and just kind of looked at it. He's like, well, I don't know what it is, but it'll probably be a capacitor. And I already had scheduled a guy to do the maintenance and to come look at the system here right now. And he's like, it's probably a capacitor, but I don't know. And then he and Tactical came over here and flipped some breakers that kept getting tripped by the system. And then for some reason it came back on. So we don't know what's up, but I would rather have it broken now and fix it now than have it go out next weekend when we have people here learning how to make cheese in a class, right? So that was a whole set of things. What that means is that we've had sort of nonstop crazy here since we got back from Polyface on Sunday, and Tactical by 10 o'clock this morning, after he ended up chasing sheep out there in the sun, he was like, I'm tired. And yes.
When did you change the tempo and thermostat?
To 72?
Yeah.
About an hour ago. Okay. It was at 74, and an hour ago I changed it to 72. Yeah, so anyway, you guys get a play-by-play of the HVAC as we do this. So he looked at me, he's like, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm tired because we'd been loading the asphalt shingles, and then it was constant. So what that tells me is this weekend, hopefully he can get a little bit of a reset, maybe the rest of today, because Ken's gone for the day. We're ready to put metal on, but for the rest of the day, it didn't make sense to start it. And his role when that happens is to hand the sheets up so that they can be put on. And I'm actually looking forward to the roof project being done. But the good news is Nighthawk, who's going to work on painting the fascia boards this weekend, won't have a slippery metal roof to be on. It's actually less slippery up there right now. Beth Emily says 72 is God's temperature. Well, I turned it down for the show because it felt good here, but also when the sun hits that window over on the south side, it will heat up, although the air conditioner hasn't typically not kept up. So it does a pretty good job. But it's, as I said, when we have people here learning cheese, and we don't want it to be 90 degrees in here for a number of reasons. Also because it's unpleasant if that happens. So do you have an update you want to tell me, or are you telling me after? The update is he's going to look at it. He's going to look at it. You explained all the issues. He's not sure what it is, right?
Nobody knows what it is.
Yeah. That filter was as clean as it is, too. That was the filter that was in there when I checked the filter.
Okay.
Because I was making sure the filter wasn't clogged yesterday. Okay, we're ready to talk about Polyface? Okay. So Polyface, the thing that struck me at Polyface, I've never done the farm tour before. Daniel Salatin did it, not Joel Salatin. I thought it was going to be Joel. But it actually makes sense because Daniel's running that farm at this point. Yeah. So he's more in touch with the day-to-day. He actually tells Joel what to do when Joel's in town. From what I understand, that's what Joel said. He's like, yeah, I just do what Daniel tells me to do when I get here. And that's part of Joel's brilliant plan to have, he was like, if you don't if you want to have multi-generational success with something, you have to let your kids run the things.
Yeah.
You have to trust them to run the things. You have to let them make mistakes if that's what's going to happen. You have to set them up from a young age to be in charge of things, or else they've never been in charge of things, and then you die, and then they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So that's something Joel did that was really smart, I've always thought.
Yeah.
So what I noticed there that had never struck me before, because I've never done the tour when I've been there at events, I've always been off, like scheduled doing something else during that time, is that the systems he's had set up, he's spent 40 years figuring this out with help from other people working on it, right?
Yeah.
And they've always approached it to make it modular and scalable. That's been their thing, modular, scalable. And I that's what struck me about what they're doing, is it's modular and scalable, and it's set up in a way that's as efficient as can be for their land. And I think implementing their systems at our homestead, or any homestead, unless it's exactly like their homestead, has to be adjusted. And that is how regenerative agriculture works, right? You take the framework and then you adjust it to your goals and your land.
Yeah.
And that was, I just hadn't really, I'd seen pictures, I'd seen how he did his pigs, and that actually made a lot more sense to me when I went out there 5 years ago and saw how he ran his pigs through the woods, which you'll talk about. You had some of the same epiphanies I did, so we'll let you talk about that. But that was the biggest thing, and I do think it's definitely worth seeing how other people do things, especially on a larger scale, even if you're not going to go larger scale, because part of why some of his systems work great there is that they are scaled, and so they work well for scale. They may not be the best choice for us here at a smaller scale. So I already told them about driving without getting hurt.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about things that get lost in translations with pigs?
Yeah. So I had heard like this whole thing about how they do the gates for their pigs, and they've got these wood gates that they move around and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that sounds cool. No idea how they do it. That makes absolutely no sense in my redneck brain as to how you're going to have a movable wooden gate that is going to hold pigs in. Like, that just, it doesn't.
Now I know why he
sense.
looked at me that way when I was like, it's so cool. They use pallets for gates for the pigs. It did not occur to me you thought they were mobile.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was assuming, was they were portable. And so like,
he was like, have you met pigs?
Maybe if I see it, then it'll make sense. And then I go out there and it's like they've got wood posts sunk into the ground, and they're attaching the pallets to the post. And it's like, well, I already kind of do something similar to that. I have two versions. One, I use a cattle panel with a couple of carabiners and just clip the carabiners from the cattle panel to the woven wire fence.
For the sheep.
For the sheep.
Yeah, for pigs that might not work as well.
That probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, because they're pigs.
Yeah. And then there's a couple of places where in my wooden post I've got 3 or 4 rows of insulators that are turned sideways so that I can run the wire, well, basically over, up, over, up, over, up, and create a temporary electric fence gate without anything but, one reel. I don't have to put any post in, nothing like that. And it's an area where I'm not planning on putting, or those places are areas where I'm not planning on putting an actual gate in. The only reason we close those off is if there are animals in there. So it's something that, going out there and actually seeing it it's like, okay, now this makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, and so the reason they do that with the wood pallets is the pigs are trained to wire The wire that they run in the woods, they have the paddocks basically already set up. They're not out there running temp wire.
Yeah.
Although they could divide them or whatever. And they have mobile like feeders and waterers for the pigs. And then they have the steel or aluminum wire. I don't know what it's made out of, but it's metal. And then they have in each paddock the pallet door that's with wood posts sunk in the ground, so it's solid, because if a pig's like scratching up against it and weighs 300 pounds, that's kind of that's stressful to anything. And then when they're ready to move the pallets, they open the pallets. Well, pigs don't see very well. They smell well. They can sense things. They can hear, smell well, I think is what they do. They don't see very well. So those wood pallets are like, obviously this place I don't get shocked when I rub up against it.
Yeah.
The wires, they just sort of kind of learn by trial and error because they can't see them. And so they get nailed and they're like, oh, don't go over there. And so never has the big pig been shocked where that gate is. So when you open it, they know that means that the lunch bucket is open because they have fresh feed over there. It's fresh forage for them. And they just go through.
Yeah.
So, I guess I didn't explain that very well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was just one minor little detail that wasn't kind of, miscommunication. And it's like, yeah. And I also mentioned that, with the way that they're doing their chicken tractors, it's kind of the same thing that they use the chicken tractors to clear a whole pasture, and it's like that doesn't really make sense in my head either, because I'm thinking of the way we run a chicken tractor
They're
here.
running 20.
Yeah, and the way that they run them, it's like once I actually saw it, like not even like up close, like once the chicken tractors came into view, I was like, oh, the way that they have them staggered in a diagonal line, and so that they're literally, it's like doing a bob walk down in the military when you're clearing a flight deck or something.
I liked the dolly. Like, that's why I had you look at how the dolly was that they used to move the chicken tractor, because that comes up under and just moves it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense for their application for the meat birds. But yeah, they have like 10 tractors diagonal, so that you have access to each tractor from the side. And then you move it and you just go down the line and move them all one. It takes 5 minutes per tractor per day to top the water, food, and move it.
Yeah.
And that's how you scale. And so one tractor it's going to take me 20 minutes because it takes me 15 minutes to get my stuff together, and then 5 minutes on the tractor. 10 tractors, it takes me 10 minutes to get my stuff together, and then 5 minutes a tractor. So that's 50 minutes. So that's 1 hour to move 10 tractors. And that's something that's an important lesson, because if you're like down on yourself for, well, Joel Salatin says it takes 5 minutes a tractor. Well, yeah. And it takes you 5 minutes a tractor too, except for that to get ready to do the thing takes some time too. And so it's going to take you longer.
Yeah, that's where the sheep are, where the girls are right now. It's roughly 6 to 7 minutes from the time that I get on the four-wheeler to the time that I pull up to where the girls are at. That's not counting getting stuff together, loading a four-wheeler, filling water jugs, anything I'm doing while I'm up there. That's just the transit time to get there. Now, the boys is completely different. I don't even, like where the boys are right now, I don't even take the four-wheeler over there. I just walk because it's easier.
Yeah.
Because they're right there. So it's like 60 seconds. So, and I mean, that's also like, it's one of the things I always get irritated with people at is, it's like, somebody's like, oh, well, so-and-so just does it this way. And it's like, okay, I'm sure there's a reason that they do it that way. Just like there's a reason that I don't do it that way. It's like you go look at
By the way,
One-
I'm some people.
sometimes I get it from a lot of people, but it's like, you go look at one of the primary areas where we run a chicken tractor. There's 2 sections on either side where you can't run a chicken tractor. It's not physically possible because it goes up the side of a hill and there's rocks that are so big that an excavator couldn't move them. And there's trees.
You know where tractors would do really well?
Oh,
Right out there.
maybe.
There's a lot of grass out there. Anyway, but not 10 tractors, 1 or 2.
No, yeah, and that's the other thing is if we use the normal strip that we normally run the chicken tractor, you could go about 2 wide in some places and 3 wide in others, but you're not putting 10 tractors wide.
Yeah, not that land
over there.
No,
because it's different. It's not that they're doing it wrong or we're doing it wrong. It's a different property.
we're also not producing meat birds at scale.
Yeah,
Like that's not what I think this property is best for.
Yeah,
It's better grazing. So the other thing that was really helpful at Polyface was Daniel Salatin was very gracious with his time and just stayed around hanging out with everybody till everybody left.
yeah,
And we got to talk a little bit about our sheep situation, which, they're primarily doing cows there, not sheep. They do have sheep. And he's like, well, do you think your grazing density is too high or too low? And I think it's too low. But our first year, it was definitely not too low.
No, our first year, depending on which paddock it was, they were running out of food in
A day or 2.
1 to 3 days.
Yeah.
And 3 days is being generous. Now, most of those paddocks have enough food for 7+ days.
Yeah. So his suggestion, hearing that, he's like, of course, you want to get to a place where you can move them efficiently more often over time if you can, right? Which is the ideal, but there's also the do with what you can, what you have. And the thing I appreciate about both Salatins is they're like, this is the ideal, but you got to do what you can with the time you have and the situation you're in.
Yeah.
So they're very non-judgmental about it. Some people are like, you are doing it wrong, blah, blah, blah. So we let our sheep stay up to 7 days on a paddock. So a couple times we've gone more than 7 days because we had to.
Yeah.
But he was like, knowing that that's what's happening with your grazing density, if you could run 1 wire across once a day, and if they get out into that other section of the paddock, and just give them access to more, and they'll do more grazing intensity over the 7 days, and that will rehabilitate the pasture longer, which I hadn't really thought of it that way. And I know you're probably not going to do it anytime soon, but if we had another person helping here, that might be feasible with an extra set of hands, because you could just be like, go out there and move the wire.
Yeah. And that's another one that's like, I definitely understand the concept. I do not disagree with the concept. And part of my pasture, that's doable. The other part of the pasture,
Not super doable.
no.
But, it's always doable. It's like not willing to put that much effort in on the super steep.
Well, the amount of bushwhacking that I would have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, literally today I was on the 0 turn on flat. And my 0 turn has ATV tires on it. They're not the little racing slicks you normally have on a lawnmower. The things have pretty decent traction. And I was running into enough weeds that I could not push through.
Yeah. But over time with grazing density, like what's happened is the pasture over 3 years has gotten easier to manage. And it will continue to get easier to manage. And it also, part of that will open up windows for us to do more intense grazing in different places. But then you told me today you were thinking about what if we added 2 cows?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of been a goal to be able to get to a point to where we could run cows, and I don't know who said what about running cows and sheep together or cows and goats together, but
Mark
I
Alexander brought it up with us at one point, but that was before our sheep years.
yeah.
The Dexter. He had a Dexter.
I've looked at the Florida crackers
Mm-hmm.
because it's a small breed cow that survives more off of bramblish stuff than grass
Yeah.
because of where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
And, the notion of throwing 2 of them in with the sheep and adjusting paddock size to match. Because one of the things Daniel said was that they're going to stomp down a lot of the other stuff that the sheep aren't going to eat, which, the whole concept that if you're not going to have an animal, you have to do its job. Like I play a game called Whack-A-Weed when I'm on the 4-wheeler transiting back and forth. No, it's not even whack.
It's with the wheels.
Yeah,
Tires. I do
with
that
the
too.
Tires.
What can I run over? Yeah, I do that.
Because a lot of the stuff that's up there, like ironweed or bear's foot, which I despise. As far as I'm concerned, it should go on the endangered species list and then actually go extinct. But that stuff, once it gets big enough, I figured this out because I was standing in amongst a bunch of ironweed and I put my foot up against one and just kind of pushed, and it just kind of broke off at the ground and fell over. And I was like, if I can do that with my foot, I can do a lot more of that with the 4-wheeler. And so there are times when some section starts to get really bad with something like bear's foot, I'll just take the 4-wheeler up and drive back and forth and just trample it all to the ground.
Yeah.
Because we don't have cows to do that. So, the thought of that is one of the reasons that I would just like could really, you could sell me on getting cows just for that.
So I'd like to talk to somebody who's running cows with sheep, because I know Don Gorham has a donkey with her cows. A cow was born unexpectedly. The donkey attacked the calf. Calf is alive, but it knocked out all its teeth. And so it's gumming its milk and gumming its feed at this point. And it will get adult teeth, so that'll be fine. But the question is, would a cow attack a lamb that gets born?
I don't know.
So that may mean we have to be even more purposeful about separating pregnant moms from everybody else when the time comes. Which we do. Like, at first we were just letting whatever happens, but then we notice bad things happen when that happens, and I'm not willing to deal with it. So, yeah.
That's also one of the things that, like, I tried finding some YouTube videos about running cows and sheep together or something like that at one point, and, like, found literally nothing.
Yeah, so I don't know how that would work. Male donkey or female, I don't know. It wasn't on my farm, so I don't know if Dawn's goat is male or female. Other people in this chat may know, who have spent more time on her homestead than I have, because I see some of you Dixon County people are here. So this morning, the redneck gave me a talking to about unplugging his fence, because I was trying to cook dinner last night, and we've all been sort of like burnout level exhausted by the end of the day based on everything that's happened. Like yesterday, I had a wonderful day scheduled with Michelle from Trippy Acres Farm. She was coming out. She was bringing elderberries. We were going to make elderberry syrup. And she, like, on her way out, she's like, do you want pears? She brought pears. Do you want okra? I have okra to pickle. And I had 3 hours put aside uninterrupted for this. And got interrupted because my 10:30 a.m. appointment with the guy who needed to check and see if it was safe to have a fire in that chimney ended up, let's see, she got here at 2, he got here at 2.
Thereabouts.
And then he was talking while I was talking to her, and she was really gracious with me about that whole thing. And it was 9,000 degrees in here. So I enjoyed it. And that's kind of what the Holler hub is for, right? That's why we have the base camp lodge, is that we can come here and do community projects sometimes, like making elderberry syrup, or these pears get to be processed next, or whatever it is. And it was just, whew. So by the time I got to dinner cooking last night, which was steak, which just meant I'm just going to vacuum seal it and sous vide it while I try to wash everything off that we're going to use, because my house got mold fogged and we don't want to eat that. So I had to wash everything, and then you have to wash every place you're putting it away. And then there's like, at this point, there's just dishes piled everywhere in my kitchen, because I've pulled them all out of cabinets. And there's the place where the stuff that's been rinsed is, and the place to be rinsed. And then there's the cabinets that have been cleaned, closed with stuff in it, and the cabinets that have not been cleaned open. So I remember that why they're open is they're not done yet. Does it look like chaos in my house right now?
Yeah.
It's pretty bad, isn't it? Yesterday, I went to unload the dishwasher. I'm like, I can't put these away. And I just started stacking bowls as tall as Tactical in front of him. That's what I did last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I used the vacuum sealer, which is currently outside, because we need to pull everything out of my mud room and deep clean that and restain that floor, since Tigger was a little sloppy with his urination towards the end of life. And I was like, why is my vacuum sealer unplugged? It's not working. So I unplugged whatever was plugged in, going somewhere random, and I plugged it in and vacuum sealed and went on with my life. So I got a talking to this morning about unplugging his extension cords.
It was not a talking to.
It really wasn't. You could tell he was frustrated and trying to be nice.
I was frustrated at everything else that had nothing to do with that fence charger.
Apparently I unplugged the fence charger.
I just happened to walk by. Thought I heard the fence charger ticking. I stopped and turned around and heard it not ticking. So I walk over and there's nothing.
And you're like, no, the fence charger went out. Of course it went out today.
So I start, okay, look, okay, plug is coming unplugged. Maybe that's it. Plug it back in. No, nothing. So I go down to see if something, GFCI or something, tripped. And look, very obvious. The extension cord is not plugged in at all. And there's another extension cord plugged in where that one was plugged in.
Which I had permanently plugged in for like 2 months.
No, it was not. But it went to the vacuum sealer, so it's like...
He knew who the culprit was.
Yeah.
He knew who the culprit was anyway.
It wasn't even so much, well, it wasn't at all that the fence charger was unplugged for 5 minutes. It's that the fence charger was unplugged and then never plugged back in. So the first question I asked was, when did you use the vacuum sealer? The answer being last night. So it's like, okay, so the sheep have had the sheep who are already prone to skipping the fence right now and are about to go to jail until I can't take them whaling anymore, have been in there for 12 hours, 14 hours with no electricity to the fence.
And they stayed in.
Fortunately.
Yeah. So that's good. That was a good thing that happened. Kind of like the AC going out this week instead of next week people are here. It's a good thing that happened. But yeah, so the sheep, when he says going to jail, what he means is retraining them on electric fence, where they have a hard fence environment with electric on the inside so that when they try to skip the fence, they get nailed by the electric fence. They don't like that because it puts them in a more confined situation. And that's what he means by whaling, because then they complain about it. Even though they have food and hay and enough space, they get mad.
They don't have what they want, which is fresh
Fresh
stuff.
forage. Yeah, they have a little bit, but it'll be gone in a second. Well, actually, that pasture you're putting them on doesn't have very good pasture.
There's actually a surprising amount of grass in there right now.
Oh, that's good.
But they'll probably eat through that in a day or two.
Yeah.
And then at some point, the whaling will start because they want on the other side of the fence. And I'm not going to let them to the other side of the fence. And at some point, somebody's going to do something and test and try. And especially considering the fact that I'm going to leave a spot where there's going to be an opening in the hard fence. But there's going to be about, 3, 6, 7, 8 strands of electric wire going across, which they are not going to be able to just plow through. So if they try to go through that, which they fair chance they will, they're going to get nailed.
So yesterday was exhausting for a number of reasons. One was that sheep are getting out that shouldn't. And the problem is when one sheep gets out, it teaches the other sheep to. Thankfully, Rammy has not learned. Rammy does not want to test the fence at all.
He has.
Yeah.
But
But
not on a regular.
Not on the regular. And then we had this, making steak dinner. We didn't eat until 8:15 or 8:30 last night. We usually eat at 6:30 because of everything going on. And like the mold treatment at my house meant it took way longer to be ready to eat in a, cleaned up environment from that. So then, and as a result of the mold, I was washing everything. You know what happens when you wash things? You use water. And then I went to rinse one last thing and there was no water. So after the long day, the water system went out because the filter was needing to be replaced, right?
Yeah, there's 3 filters on that system. There's 2 spin down filters, which I just did an excessive cleaning on. And then there is a replaceable cartridge filter that I went to replace the other day. Could not find a replacement for it on this property and moved on with life, knowing that it needed to get replaced. But it was like, I don't know where it is. I think you weren't here or something. And it's like, okay, move on to the next thing for now.
Yeah. So to top off our day yesterday, messing with water till 9 o'clock at night was on the list, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I was watering all my gardens. I was running the dishwasher. I was running the laundry because I wanted to have rags I could clean with, didn't have the mold treatment on them. We both took showers.
Yeah.
That's when that happens. And then the spring was not refilling to storage as fast as it usually does. So we blew through all that water. And then it's set up to turn itself off so we don't blow out the pump. So it did what it was supposed to do, but
yeah,
nobody wanted to. So then we were on water austerity for the rest of the night. But yeah, I did do dishes twice this morning.
Yeah. I mean, the time, I don't know how long that was. 30, 45 minutes. I think the water level in the cistern came up about an inch.
That's bad. Which,
I mean, it's not that far out of the ordinary, but I definitely want to upgrade. I want
to highlight this. Jim says extension cords are like fence gates. You leave them the way you find them. Yes. And my vacuum sealer was plugged in and he unplugged it to plug in the fence charger instead of unplugging the dishwasher. Right?
The dishwasher isn't plugged in.
Oh, what else is plugged? What's the second extension cord there?
The second extension cord is the extension cord that I ran around the outside sink so that you can plug the smoker in.
Okay. I use the vacuum sealer way more than the smoker. You know what else, though? The second plug that doesn't work.
I'll get around to it when I get around to it.
So, question: what make and model of vacuum sealer from Carson? It's a VacMaster. I don't remember what model of VacMaster it is. I had a Vivor and I couldn't get a part for it I needed, and they couldn't tell me what part it was, and they basically told me to pound sand. So I got rid of that and I got the VacMaster, and then that same part is in the VacMaster, and then I figured out what part it was. And then I had already given the other one away to Leos. So that's what I have. And I wasn't super happy with the customer service at Vivor for that. So that was the deal. Okay. What's next? I said I would talk about sad cheese. I had a sad cheese experience this week.
Okay.
I went to a cheese store, which is known for all the awesome cheeses they have, to buy cheese for the cheese class, because we've got, blue cheese,
Ow.
and we've got, was that your hip or your gun? That was your gun? Yeah, so that felt like your gun. I was like, ow. He just like nailed my elbow with his gun walking by. So, we're going to do Limburger and blue cheeses. And so you would think, going to a cheese shop, you walk in and the person working there might know a thing or two about cheese. And you would be wrong. They didn't. Well, they knew a thing or two about, like they knew the name of their cheese, and they knew some of what it tasted like. So that was helpful. But I walked in and I was like, what kind of milk is this made from? And they're like, what? What kind of milk is this? They're like, cow, sheep, whatever. Because there were some cheeses I'd never heard of there. And then they told me, and that was cool. And then I was like, okay, what dairy is it from on the next cheese? And they were like, oh, cow's milk. I was like, yeah, but what's the company name that produces it? And they're like, I don't know. Is there a way to find out? No. So I had a very disappointing experience, and the person was talking really fast with their back to me. And the only reason I actually bought cheese that on that errand is that I was going to have to drive all the way to a different town 2 hours away to get the cheese collection for the cheese class. And I bought 10 or 12 varieties of cheese there. And so that people can taste a big variety at our cheese class next week. And I'm probably never going back to that cheese shop. That's what I decided. I was just like, it was bad. But I was also like, it's got to be hard as a business owner to have somebody with that sort of demeanor. But I don't know if it was just like me specifically or what, but it was a very sad cheese. I was like, the one thing I was looking forward to, not the one thing, but one of the things I was looking forward to about this class was I got to go to the cheese store and have this cool experience buying different cheeses from different parts of the world and choosing what people will get to taste at the class. And it was robbed from me by somebody who didn't want to work with me at all and mumbled and turned their back to me, instead of, like, they were talking so fast into the fridge as they were pulling stuff out that I couldn't understand what they said and kept having to ask them to repeat it. And there was loud music and it was bad. So that's my sad cheese experience. That being said, we have a really cool menu coming up because Chef Ken heard what cheeses I had. And one of the things I got, I'm going to dig it out. So first of all, you get to taste that cheese if you come. And then there is, what's this one? This is like a porter cheddar. That's going to be really cool. And this one is Mobier ash, which is like, it's a vegetable ash stripe instead of a blue cheese. There's a blue cheese, but I got this this duck prosciutto, however you say that. Anyway, and we got a bunch of this that we can turn. He's gonna do a whole roasted and banana leaf duck prosciutto thing. Yeah, so lots of, and as promised, Limburger. So there's a bunch more cheeses. So at least, so I get to have fun with the cheeses, but I need to find a way to make that fun because my shopping experience was not fun. It actually kind of put a bummer on my whole day. The only thing that made it better is I went to the farmer's storehouse to see if they had any local dairy cheeses. And I met, I think it was Cindy or Cynthia. Cindy, I think. I met her and told her about the class, and she was super excited about the class. She's like, that sounds like an awesome class. And she was really nice. So that was a better thing. Yeah, Margot's like, all the cheese, it makes me sad. Margot, we'd love to have you here. You just have to come all the way from Florida. So, but yeah, so we're having the duck bruschetta. We're having a salad with, I have some other cured meats that will be in the salad, plus locally scavenged. And then because Michelle from Trippy Acres Farm brought me a bunch of elderberry that she harvested, I'm going to make a compote this weekend. Hopefully this weekend we'll make a compote. And then that will go into the salad dressing, I believe, is going to be from the elderberry. So there's a whole bunch of different ways we're using it. So, yeah. Anyway. So, oh, yeah, that's right. Margot's like, I wish I could. I would die. I can't dairy. My grandmother loves Limburger and onions on rye or pumpernickel. I can't stand the smell. So that's the thing. It's like tasting a smelly cheese is an interesting experience. And Chef Ken's a sommelier. And so that's like for wine and for bourbon, I believe. And he's been working on his cheese certification. But the way he explains how to taste cheeses or taste different things, it elevates the experience even beyond that. Like he did that at Jack's workshop with some bourbon tasting, and I was pretty impressed with how he does that. So I'm super excited. I mean, like this class is probably more for me than anybody else at this point because I do like my cheese. What do you think about eggless ducks?
I don't know. I haven't had time to put much of any thought into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is about time that they need to cycle out. Yeah,
it's true. It is time for new ducks in the holler, but probably in time for next year based on our timeline. So I've talked about homestead burnout. Adding baby ducks right now is not what we're doing. Because it'd be one more thing. I still haven't rinsed all the dishes at my house and cleaned all my cabinets out so I can put stuff away.
Yeah.
But, the bonus of that, though, is that I am like, oh, I don't need this. Oh, I don't need that. Oh, I don't need that. So that's been a fun part. That's been good for me. I did get my fall seeds in this week, and that's why I'm madly watering the garden all the time and making the pump run dry. Yeah. So, and so my automated watering system is not automated at all now. It's just a sprinkler. And I have to move it manually, but that's actually working better than the drip system I had sort of built. So that's good. Anyway, other than that, I've got nothing left. Margot says it's too hot for eggs down here. Some birds DGAF, but a lot are on strike. Yeah, that's the way that goes. We're about to go into duck molting season anyway, and then it'll be 45 days with no duck eggs, which could be what's going on, but I keep finding them in the yard.
Yeah, that's about to change.
Yeah, so the ducks are going to get closed in, so they have to lay in the coop again. And we need to make the coop a better place for them to lay right now. So it's kind of on us. But we're going to talk about finances on the homestead and running a content business now. I got a notice today from Facebook that I'm monetized now.
Oh.
You know how much money I've made in the last 6 months?
1.5 pennies.
No, more than that. $4.65. We're rich. We are rich content creators, dude. High five. Anyway, that being said, you might as well take the monetization if you're on platforms. It can't hurt. And every so often you do hit a home run and get $20, and that doesn't hurt your day either. And then you can afford another nice cheese. And Margot says, woot, woot. Guys, that's the update from the homestead. We're going to wrap up. I'm getting ready to taste Holler Roast coffee at the Tennessee State Fair tomorrow. So I've got to get my poop in a scoop for that. And we'll be back next week with our regular schedule. If you like the show and want to support the work we're doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. 2, consider becoming a member. And if you want to help the show, I don't have as many cheese class tickets sold as I want. So let your friends know. If it's not for you, let them know anyway, because this cheese class is unlike any other cheese class that has been offered. I've never seen anything like this. And it's going to be both a great culinary experience, educational from a homestead and foraging standpoint, cheese, of course. And then we're doing a section on ways to use whey that nobody's ever done, because only Chef Ken can do it. And it's going to be off the hook. So if you're not able to come, tell your friends about it. That's all at livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, go out, make it a great week.